Chapter 31. Wounds. The hangar is huge. The 4 Kanzers are parked next to the entrance, ready to leave if the army should trace the fugitives. In a basement room, Jacques and Gabriel observe the lifeless bodies of Nathan and Clara, lying on treatment tables. "Go and get me 2 medical drones," orders Gabriel. Jacques then demonstrates his science, and one of the first things he does is restore our independence of mind. The surveillance systems they had implanted in us are removed. An hour later, no trace of injury remains. Clara regains consciousness first. Gabriel leans over her with an emotional smile. "It's all right, Clara." She squints, blinded for a moment by the harsh light. Then she straightens up and lets Gabriel hold her close. Then she looks worriedly at Nathan, lying motionless and unresponsive beside her. Sudden anguish crushed her throat. Jacques comes to her side, takes her hand, smiles tenderly and says, "According to the information transmitted by the drones, there seems to be a problem with Nathan." She suddenly replies, frightened. "What's wrong? What's the matter? Speak." Jacques puts on a sad face and announces his diagnosis. "I'm afraid he's lost his mind." Clara bursts into tears, while Gabriel questions Jacques, looking horrified. Jacques clarifies. "Nathan seems to have gone mad. We'll do everything in our power to cure him. It may take a long time. And above all, it depends on him." The group closes ranks around Nathan's body. The tears are flowing. It will take time, a lot of time. 15 days have passed. Within the group, everyone does his or her job to the best of their ability. We all have one common goal, the fierce fight against the powers that be. And finally, it's time to act, time to prepare for battle. Meanwhile, Clara and Jacques are busy caring for Nathan, trying to bring him out of his worrying silence. The evolution of the diagrams shows a marked improvement in his state of health. The neurological desks show a marked resumption. Brain activity. Clara is striving to regain a taste for life, even if the psychological scars of the outrages she suffered are indelible. Her nights are still filled with nightmares. The sedatives Jacques forces her to take help keep her from giving in to the panic that seizes her every time she remembers Caleb's hands, his body, his breath, the pain and humiliation inflicted. She'd like Nathan's arms to cradle her, to soothe her, to prove to him that she's still alive. That she's still alive. All around her, people are talking about the actions planned against the government. The group has grown. Gabriel and Jacques are now clan leaders. They are the leaders of an embryonic dissident group. An embryonic rebellion. Amethyst has joined us, along with several other brilliant scientists. To Jacques' great delight, a couple is being born. Together, they are developing the warrior technologies used by Gabriel. He is in fact a kind of test soldier. He's in charge of testing new weapons and warfare techniques. While Nathan is at his worst, Gabriel is becoming more powerful by the day. Chapter 32. Wake-up call. In the evening, Gabriel, the undisputed leader, gathers his troops and announces. Given the power of the adversary, we are considering 1. Dispersal of men in groups of 3 across the country, i.e. 6 groups. The others will remain here to coordinate actions. 2. The interconnection of communicating bombs on the main networks. 3. Return to base. 4. Finally, we blow everything up. A heavy silence follows Gabriel's statement. The battle is approaching. And this time, it will be impossible for the government to conceal the impending coup. It will also be impossible to conceal from the population the massive presence of the army, in retaliation for the escape of the 2 condemned to death. The explosions at the state prison must have been heard from afar. Rumors began to circulate a few hours after the couple's release. Doubts began to creep into the minds of Epoxia's inhabitants. Specialized bodies have gone into globalization mode. Every citizen is spied on. Even the smallest hint of subversion in a conversation or thought leads to repressive action. Clara, Nathan, rebels, lie, escape are all keywords likely to lead to the immediate arrest of anyone who mentions or utters them. The authorities were on the alert. A sudden awakening of public awareness could soon lead to a total loss of control on the part of those in power. From a military base, Chap mentally transmits precise and radical instructions to all his subordinates. Multiply the number of searchers. Scour the country. We must find them as quickly as possible. In their safe haven, Gabriel and his team put the finishing touches to their campaign plan. And I, at last, come to my senses. I'm back again. Conscious at last. Clara's beloved face is bent over me. I repress a sob as I think of what that dog Chap has put her through. I'm torn between the almost violent joy of finding my wife, of embracing her, and the imperious desire for revenge. Gabriel joins us. He tells me how he managed, with the help of Big Bill, to get us out of prison. As the story unfolds, my anger grows. A whiff of hatred washes over me, giving me new energy. I quickly ask Jacques to make me Gabriel's equal. Clara's eyes darken. They all look at me in a curious way, with gentleness and commiseration, apprehension too. Uncle bows his head when I ask, "What's going on?" I try to climb down from the treatment table and exclaim in astonishment when my legs give way beneath me. Jacques takes me in his arms. A dull panic overcomes me. Am I completely unable to walk? Once again, tragedy strikes. Once again I sink. I thought I'd be back in the air, but here I am again, shattered in mid-air. I'm in for a long recovery. My new crusade will be to regain my mobility. Time passes. Slowly. Too much. Like the members of a secret society, we plan and organize our attack. We're convinced we're acting for the greater good. Jacques and Gabriel devise a strategy to reveal the truth to the blind, gullible people, always ready to swallow the lies of a handful of crooked politicians. I suddenly remember that I too have allowed myself to be maneuvered in the past, and I feel ashamed and angry. I feel guilty for having let myself be taken advantage of. In any case, keeping quiet is out of the question. But where do I fit in? I've been dragging myself around for 2 weeks now, my legs useless. I'm nailed to a levitating chair. I'm weaker and weaker. Not so much because I'm disabled, but because of my attitude and behavior. Maybe it's time I really woke up. It's up to me. My handicap now deprives me of the opportunity to fight in the field alongside my clan. I do my best to keep up appearances. I adopt a calm and measured attitude, even though deep down inside, an unquenchable rage ravages my heart and burns me with an all-consuming fire. Images of Chap play over and over in my tired mind, and I often clench my fists, fighting back tears of anger. Jacques tells me that science has its limits, that he can't heal me right now, because, he says, they've also broken my soul. In a way, it's up to me to heal myself, to decide to get better. I want to change, I want to become the person I was. I'm doing more and more sport. I want to regain a strength, a tone, a power that will reassure me. It's as if I've just forgiven myself for my powerlessness and my failure. I have to allow myself to become myself again. It's working. I'm regaining a little more autonomy every day. I'm gaining a lot of time. But not enough. Some operations can't drag on and have to be done without me. The most important objective is to spread the truth. To share what we know. I'm going to follow this first attack from a distance. I'll join them in the command room. The government has instilled in the people of Epoxia a very particular line of conduct, based on the regular assimilation of totally false data. They are formatted beings who act, convinced of the legitimacy of their reactions and convictions. What will happen when they learn that the governing powers have been manipulating them for decades? The attack is scheduled for tonight. We've already launched our messengers through the stained streets of Epoxia. There are 8 of us at headquarters, in charge of monitoring and setting the parameters for operations. 18 men are in the field, divided into 6 teams of 3. They're running enormous risks, while I'm safe and sound, burning with the desire to accompany them. Each man is equipped with a sophisticated camouflage system, capable of blocking the waves emitted by their brains and liable to be detected. Invisibility domes shield them from the most powerful radars. They move around in their levitation harnesses. It's now 3 o'clock in the morning. The teams move like ghosts, and the few passers-by cannot suspect the presence, just a few meters above ground, of these strange shadow fighters. One by one, they take up their assigned positions. Interventions must be rapid and simultaneous. The aim is to attach bypass rings to the network cables to allow all our information exchanges to be routed. We will then become, momentarily, the masters of all Epoxia communications. There are, however, certain precautions to be taken. The network has its own defenses. The cables are protected by underground tubes, embedded in 3 meters of Secutex concrete. This makes direct attack impossible. What's more, the inside of the tubes is kept under artificial vacuum. Even the slightest perforation would. And the slightest microalteration would be immediately detected. Only a few maintenance hatches provide access. One of the teams will be posing as maintenance personnel. Jacques' background and knowledge of the safety installations designed by Chap were precious allies in the meticulous preparation of the operation. The network is a web directed by a central service which controls all the filaments of the structure. It's at this strategic point that we're going to have to strike. A technical maintenance intervention must follow a tangible and verifiable anomaly. An overload, for example. That's why we've scattered 600 autonomous modems across the city, capable of blocking the network by combining their transmission power. Each of these devices is capable of distilling 1048 zeta powers of information in a single nanosecond. The cables will then be saturated, and the control points will be forced to pause in order to avoid total system implosion. In the event of failure, we have 400 other replacement modems. We give the signal. The modems go into action. We are in constant contact with the various teams. We seem to hear a noise. The control screens confirm that the network has reached its limits. One of our technical managers declares, "It's sizzling down there. Network failure. Hurry up. It's up to you." A Mauser shot through the electronic locks and the game's up. Gabriel declares, "The rings are in place. We order them to return as soon as possible." On the way back, they'll have the pleasure of running into the official state maintenance technicians, who arrived on the scene too late. The truth is out there. Nothing can stop it now. In homes, businesses and public places, it's already spreading like a torrent. The rebellion begins with this message. It's 3:52 a.m. at Aaron Swartz's house. He can't sleep, his nerves are on edge, and rather than inject the drugs that will lull him into a deep sleep, he prefers to accept his temporary gloom. In his living room, he distracts himself and plays in immersive mode. Suddenly, the image becomes blurred, twisted and foggy. Then the shape of a head takes shape on the screen. An austere face, half concealed by a hood, now comes into sharp focus. And this face explains. To the Epoxian people, it's time to rise up against the current regime. Our recent discoveries lead us to react with violence. The latest wars and the disappearance of Africa from our world are lies and manipulation. We have just made public most of our data. The files are at your disposal in case you doubt the veracity of our statements. Check the information you have just received carefully. Then you'll know the truth. Our group is made up of courageous free spirits. We hope to count you among us soon. Now it's up to you to understand and decide for yourself. If you seek us, we will find you. This was the first message from Free Citizens. The face disappears, giving way once again to the original program. A message appears at the bottom of the image, exacerbating his curiosity. Files downloaded. Citizens free. This scenario is repeated in every social stratum. Now everyone can know, understand and choose. I particularly like this message. I suspect it will trigger a veritable social cataclysm. I can easily imagine what could happen elsewhere, particularly on the premises of internal surveillance services. But we also need to think about making an example, a starting point for the conflict that's about to explode between us and the government. The message has been out for 48 hours. The reaction of the surveillance services is, as expected, explosive. Commander, we must act as quickly as possible. Our sections have just arrested a group of rebel sympathizers in the heart of the city. They were in possession of virtual leaflets designed to promote a general uprising. Opinion polls show an exponential increase in support for action against the government and economic leaders. Everyone is thinking of changing the world. We'll soon have only one alternative: total destruction. Kaleb sinks into his armchair. His hands supporting his chin emphasize his serious, pensive air. The indirect lighting barely reveals his hard features. He rants inwardly against this blow to his very core. He orders, "Summon the territory's top generals immediately."